USC's defensive line has been the focal point of their believers in the 2025 preseason. When was the last time you ever heard something like that? I don't know. I will come out and say within 30 seconds of this segment beginning that I think this is probably the best USC defensive line since the Pete Carroll era. If I'm wrong, please tell me why in the comment section below. I love the size and athleticism and talent this unit has. They are deeper than they were last year, and they are certainly in the starting unit, the starting four, superior talent-wise and have a much higher ceiling and a higher floor than they did last season. Last season, USC was starting defensive linemen well under 300 pounds, and by D linemen, I mean defensive tackles. And their defensive ends were inconsistent, and they suffered injuries pretty early on. Now, with better strength and conditioning, with better size and better depth, I think that people who are hyped and high on USC, I'm one of those people, by the way, have a right to point to this defensive line being the focal point for their hype, the origin point of their belief in Lincoln Riley and USC this season. Now, for me, that has a lot more to do, and I imagine this is the case with a lot of USC believers, with the staff. Before we resume this segment, please take a few seconds of your time to make sure you have liked the video, subscribed to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and for any team podcasts and playlists linked in the description, and also comment your thoughts down below in the comment section and join my Discord server via the description. All of those things I just asked you to do are completely free, and they sign you up for things related to my channel, or they don't sign you up for anything. No cost to you, and all the benefit to you because we release daily college football content here on College Football with Sam. If you want to support the channel monetarily, sign up for a YouTube membership, or check any other links in the description for my merchandise store and Patreon page. Thank you very much, and let's get back to the segment, which also ties into this defensive line. If you had a different defensive line coach with this talent, I may not be as high on this group because it's not naturally one of the best defensive lines in all of college football. It's just not quite as talented, as experienced, as old. You get the point. But with Eric Henderson coaching that unit, I give a lot of benefit of the doubt, and I have a lot of trust in what this unit can produce. You got Keeshawn Silver at nose tackle, Jamal Jarrett behind him, Devan Thompkins at defensive tackle, and Anthony Lucas and Kameryn Fountain, both at defensive end. So this defensive tackle group has multiple players over 300 pounds. Multiple, for the first time in a while for the Trojans. Multiple playable defensive tackles over 300 pounds. Silver at a 60.2 PFF grade with 312 snaps and a sack at Kentucky. Not great, but I imagine with a better position coach and a better defensive coordinator, he'll improve at USC relative to where he was at Kentucky. Jamal Jarrett only had 69 snaps at Georgia with a 53 PFF grade. Transferred, obviously, for playing time reasons. He's a massive human being. I think 330 pounds about there. Again, with good coaching, with a good DC, I would expect him to play a significant role as a backup nose tackle. Thompkins had 400 snaps and 1.5 sacks last year with a 62.4 PFF grade. With a lot of these players in Lynn's second year, so he has another year, double the time as last year to install a system and teach it to these players, and he's finally getting in some of his recruits. I'm going to give him a lot of benefit of the doubt, like I did with Jim Knowles in 2023, when some were questioning Knowles after a bad end to the 2022 season at Ohio State. I thought, well, it's his second year. They return almost everyone defensively. They should be one of the best defenses in America. And boom, that's a pretty whiffed snap right there, like USC in close games last year. I think we can all laugh about that because I highly doubt USC is going to be that bad in close games again. Riley has a 70% win percentage in his career with a little tilde before that. So it's around 70% career win percentage in close games, in one-score games. That's Riley. That's Lincoln Riley right there. And that's the schemer. That's the elite play caller where he can help his team wiggle out of close, competitive, tight situations. So since last year wasn't that, it went against the norm, I think regression to the mean actually helps USC in 2025. And defensively, that should be the case too. Lynn helped USC's defense dramatically improve in year one, just like Jim Knowles did at Ohio State. Imagine what it could be this year. Now, I don't know if they have the talent that 2023 Ohio State defense did. I don't. But I imagine that it isn't so far behind that USC is incapable of fielding a top 10 defense this year. This defense, I will tell you right now, huge part of it's the defensive line. They can be top 10 this year. This can be a top 10 defense. Lucas is returning with 231 snaps and a 65.7 PFF grade. He got hurt pretty early. And I know that Bud Elliott on the Cover 3 podcast was giving him a lot of praise and giving him flowers last season early. I'm going to give him some flowers too. I trust Elliott and his evaluations, and I also trust the fact that he's still starting with USC, and that obviously Lynn and Henderson trust him to start. Fountain was a young player last year, 71.3 PFF grade. He comes back with 2 snaps and 48 snaps. He will play more this year. He's bigger, stronger, less green, older. All those things help, especially since he was a top 100 player out of high school. You also got to remember Jakeem Stewart, who is going to be a true freshman who will be involved in this rotation too. On USC's defensive line, there's so much to love about this unit, and USC's schedule is easier than last year's in terms of travel, so that means less fatigue, because jet lag and having to travel as much as a lot of these West Coast schools do, that wears on the players. That gives these players fatigue that a lot of schools couldn't deal with properly. They have to sacrifice to be in the Big Ten because they don't have the same easy travel schedule that Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, even Nebraska, who's outside the traditional Big Ten geography, because they're all closer to each other. The original 14 Big Ten teams from much of the 2010s are all closer to each other than any of the West Coast schools are closer to Nebraska, for example. So it's helpful that USC only has to go on the road at Purdue, who's an easier team. That's Indiana. That's the state they're traveling to. Illinois, easier than, I would say, the road trip to Michigan last year. And in terms of just purely travel, certainly easier than traveling to Maryland. At Notre Dame, yet again in Indiana. And then you got at Nebraska. That's the closest of the original 14 teams that you can get that isn't, Oregon, Washington, UCLA. And then another one of the road trips, their 5th of the year, is to Oregon, who's in the same time zone. Still a lot of miles, but similar time zone at least, and you get your closest trip at the end of the year. Your second closest as your first game in November, and your second to last road trip. So I love how that aligns the travel schedule with this team, which isn't as deep as Lynn and Riley and Trumaine Carroll want this team to be, and Chad Bowen isn't as deep as they want to be, but they're deep enough to where I think they can withstand this schedule. Getting Michigan at home off a bye is huge. And then getting Nebraska on the road, yes, you'd rather have them at home, but you had them at home last year. Getting them off of a bye when Nebraska doesn't get you, if you're USC, off a bye, is also big. They have no guaranteed losses on the schedule, and any offensive line they play, Purdue, Michigan State, Illinois, Michigan, Nebraska, Northwestern, Iowa, UCLA, I would favor USC's defensive line against any of those offensive lines, or at least give it a push against any of those right now. The only 2 offensive lines where I would give USC's D-line the underdog status would be Notre Dame's O-line, which is top 5 nationally, and Oregon's, which is probably top 10, if not top 5, if you only look at the starters, nationally. And if USC's D-line plays to its ceiling, and you factor in scheme, and that Lynn, I think, is a top 10, if not top 5 defensive coordinator nationally, some of that scheme advantage could play in, and you could see USC's defensive line win the majority or all of its battles in the trenches this year because of the linebacker they have behind them, the linebackers, the safeties, and the commander on defense in D'Anton Lynn that they have. I'm high on this unit. I'm particularly high on USC's defense. USC's defense is a bigger reason why I'm picking this team to succeed more so than its offense. Thank you for watching College Football with Sam. Make sure that you've liked the video, subscribed to the channel, hit the notification bell for the channel and team playlists and podcasts in the description, joined the free Discord server where we talk college football 24/7, and have commented your thoughts down below. Check out the description for any ways you can support the channel monetarily. Everything else I've asked you to do is completely free, and your support means the world to me. We're trying to become the next big thing on college football YouTube. 6-figure subscribers, maybe 1 million one day. I think we can do that. And also check out any videos or playlists, anything in these columns right here, where there will be videos and playlists. Yeah, you get the point. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.